So that's what I'm saying. The text is like an object. It's gonna change perspective based on where you're standing. I don't know.
Hello?
Can you hear me? Can you hear me?
I missed you, baby sweet. It was a day.
It was a day.
Please tell me you're seeing this too.
From Seattle, we're Drinking the Movies. I'm Taylor Baker.
And I'm Michael Clausen.
Oh, hey.
Oh, hey.
Oh, hi.
Long time no see. How you doing?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm doing good. Enjoying our Hoppin' Oats.
Hoppin'
A
Oats.
repeat. Always good. Back at it.
This has been one of my favorite beers from Hellbent for probably 3 years now.
It's always reliable.
Yep. Go in there, get a pitcher, play some pool. It's a good routine. It's a nice routine.
It's a nice afternoon.
So we got Sci-Fi Spring finally. I talked you into it. I convinced you of it. We're doing it.
It has arrived. We have 3 sci-fi films we're discussing.
Mm-hmm.
Claire Denis' High Life. Doug Liman's Edge of Tomorrow.
Correct.
As well as...
I don't know who directed it or who wrote it, but Forbidden Planet, starring
Classic.
Leslie Nielsen.
There you go. But, as always, we will start with first impressions. What do we have?
We've got 2 big-budget science fiction films coming late this year. First, we're going to do Star Wars, and then after that, we're going to do Ang Lee's Gemini Man, starring Will Smith.
What are we doing first?
Star Wars.
Let's do it.
The Rise of Skywalker.
1,000 generations live in you now. But this is your fight.
All right, Michael. That's The Rise of Skywalker. Star Wars Episode 9, the end of a saga. What do you think?
I have a question
Go for
that
it.
Star Wars fans will probably shake their heads at. The laugh at the end?
Palpatine.
That's Palpatine. Okay. Just wanted to confirm.
Yeah.
I don't know my Star Wars laughs that well, but
What?
I know.
Don't know your Wookiee?
Oh, I would recognize a Wookiee. No problem. Big movie, deserves a big trailer. It's a big trailer. It's an epic trailer.
It also feels small.
In like an intimate way? In a good way, you mean? Or...
Like they didn't really... maybe it's a good thing because we don't know very much.
Mm-hmm.
But we saw a chase scene.
Yeah.
Twice.
True.
Right?
Yeah.
We saw Adam Driver chasing down Rey on what appears to be Tatooine, and then we saw Oscar Isaac and the droids getting chased down by some Empire guys, or whatever the hell they're called now.
Yeah.
On also what appears to be Tatooine.
Yeah. Maybe big in feeling was the better way to describe it.
Or maybe... did they... I don't know, because there was the remnants of one of those giant Death Stars, right?
Uh-huh.
So I don't know my Star Wars well enough to know like what planet that would be. Like if they would have killed the life on that planet and would have crashed into it.
Yeah. I didn't see The Last Jedi until like 9 months after it came out. I think I will try to see this one up front.
Maybe hop in that IMAX 3D for free AMC.
That sounds
at
pretty
the
cool.
Wynwood Mall.
I like the sound of that. I'm excited. I'm interested to see just how exactly this saga is wrapped up. I don't know what else to say. What about you?
I'm emotionally resonant with the trailer, but that's also I feel like I'm being manipulated by the music. To be totally honest,
sure.
like it's definitely
It's always
manipulating
been a
me.
big effect.
But that
yeah.
jump cut with Rey, like I love that. I really want to see what happens there. I want to watch that fight scene very much. I love what is that? Episode 7? Is that correct?
Oh boy, you're gonna have to give me a title. 7
is the first J.J. Abrams?
Force Awakens?
Yeah.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah, I really, really like that. Just like on revisit, I love that movie. Not so much with The Last Jedi. Is that what the last one was called?
You did not like that one as much?
I didn't like The Last Jedi. And
Got it.
After I've seen it like 5 times, and it took a while, but I definitely don't. At the end of this, I'm like, I don't like it. I don't really like that movie as much. There's scenes that I think are absolutely stunning, but just as a picture, I don't know that it works for me, and it kind of loses itself along the way. Whereas The Force Awakens kept me in the whole time, and I really, really like it on retrospect. Much like the first Star Trek movie and the Star Trek reboots, like there's just something about J.J. Abrams' fan service and ability to actually create a holistic film that I think I find more resonant than what I saw in The Last Jedi. And that's kind of what I'm feeling here, is that emotional pulse again. So I'm on board. It's a Star Wars movie I'm in.
Yeah, I was maybe in the camp that did like The Last Jedi quite a bit. I think I liked it more than The Force Awakens.
Well, you saw it once?
Correct. Just once.
Once
I think I saw both
you
once.
watch it again and you're like, okay, so those are like the dope samurai scenes that are amazing, and in the where they're fighting the Royal Guard, and you separate that from like the Casino Planet. While Benicio del Toro is a great character, it's like, why the fuck am I here? Like it just the runtime and everything like begins to break down the more you watch it and think about it. I think, and that's been my experience with most of the people that liked it at first and then started to not like it as much. It's like I don't hate it. It's just I thought it was like a perfect movie almost the first time I watched it because I was so anticipated for it, and it was so violent and cool, and so much happened in that last fight, you know, with Luke and everything. But now it's like I don't know. Once you have more time to process, maybe you'll watch it again before.
Perhaps
recap that.
Yeah, I did respond to some of the more over the top qualities of The Last Jedi, which to me felt like the most space opera of the bunch in a way. I think the humor was better for me in The Last Jedi. It obviously had a large amount of people not so thrilled with the direction of the franchise, so I will be very interested to see if this like feels more compromised to me, because of just how many people said they hated The Last Jedi, right?
I don't think is entirely... I don't think you can really hate that movie. Like, it doesn't really inspire hate. I guess you could hate what happens to characters, but like as a movie, it's not hate-inducing by any means.
But wasn't it the one in the franchise that people said they wanted like reshot and like remade?
They said that about Episode 1 as well.
That could be. I like the originals, or episodes 1 through 3. I'm a fan of those.
I do too. I'm a fan of George Lucas. If anything, I'd rather have the Lucas trilogy at the end here. But hey, we got what we got.
But I would definitely discuss it on the podcast.
All right, so we will discuss it in January, hopefully.
We got ways to go.
We do. Ang Lee.
25 years ago, they made you from me. They chose me because there's never been anybody like me. We have to end this right now. You have all of his gifts without his pain. You made a person out of another person. Then you sent me to kill him. You made a choice to do this to me.
All right, we just watched the trailer for Ang Lee's Gemini Man, starring Will Smith, Clive Owen, Mary Elizabeth Winstead. What'd you think?
Yes, please.
Sold.
To quote Leslie Knope, also known as Amy Poehler, and her debut book, yes, please. Give me more. I want more Ang Lee in my life all the time. I think he's one of the best 3D directors. I accidentally saw this before the Avengers screenings that I did for Endgame.
Cheater! God!
In IMAX 3D. I saw it twice. I saw Avengers twice in IMAX 3D, and I saw this trailer twice in IMAX 3D. The 2D trailer is not as good as the IMAX 3D trailer at all. Like, it's just Ang Lee's ability to use CG in 3D space is, I think, really something. It's his visual tone here reminds me a lot of Luc Besson, and I see a lot of intermingling between Ang Lee and Luc Besson in this movie. And I mean, what's the problem with Will Smith? Maybe he's not marketable enough. You know, maybe he's only half as marketable as he was. So let's just throw 2 Will Smiths in a movie. Boom, same level of marketing. I am all for this movie. Very excited for it. I anticipate it will probably end up in my top 20.
I'm just gonna take a gamble here and guess that it will bomb. I don't understand what the selling point is.
It's very international, isn't it?
I guess, which like I am like intrigued because it is Ang Lee. I'm like what is the angle here from him? Like I like Ang Lee movies. The premise itself, it doesn't feel particularly fresh.
It's a man cloned to kill himself.
Yeah.
By the military industrial complex.
I mean, I don't know. There's that alone isn't quite pulling me in. The 3D isn't quite as much of a selling point for me as it is for you. I think we've talked about that in the past. I'm not a huge Clive Owen fan. Will Smith, just you can take him or leave him. Probably most excited for Mary Elizabeth Winstead, depending on what she gets to do. I'm not really sure I understand what the selling point is. For you, it's mainly the look.
For me, it's Ang Lee is making a high budget IMAX 3D film.
Yeah.
Last time I walked into one of those, I didn't know what I was walking into, and I ended up loving it, and that was The Life of Pi.
Yeah.
And so I just want to be taken on that ride again. I think that Ang Lee really has a very stern vision. Even I would trust him more than Besson, where like the vision and the feeling that he's trying to evoke from his film, I think I always end up feeling at the end of it. And I trust that he had the budget and got the shots to communicate the ideas in science fiction philosophy, and to make normal people be able to feel what he wants to say enough that this movie is going to work for me. And I think that Will Smith as a performer is very reliable. I think Clive Owen as a performer is very reliable. Occasionally he can be close to perfect. See Children of Men.
Yeah.
I love Mary Elizabeth Winstead as well, so I'm excited for her in this role. And seeing the action cinematography incorporate the CG in IMAX 3D, I enjoyed it more than I enjoyed Avengers.
Just got to go back and watch the trailer. That's the reason to go back to Avengers.
And there's nothing else that came out this week, so I'll just go do that. I'll get my A-list ticket, walk in for the trailer, and then leave.
Yeah. The Ang Lee I respond to is more like
What is that, The Beach?
Brokeback Mountain.
Okay. Still haven't seen that one.
Crouching Tiger, Hidden Dragon.
Yes.
People where I feel like I'm connecting with human beings.
He did make The Beach, right? Is that right? Or am I wrong? That Leo DiCaprio movie in the 90s?
Is that on Lee?
I feel like it might be, but I might be totally wrong. But you didn't like The Life of Pi?
I mean, I liked it, but I was not over the moon about it by any means.
2000, Danny Boyle picture, my bad.
Oh, Danny Boyle. Got it. That makes sense. I could easily see them being mixed up. That seems right. But yeah, I don't know. I'm interested to see why this story appealed to him. Beyond the potential for a spectacle.
Well, maybe we should dig into what might have appealed to him by talking about some sci-fi philosophy and some sci-fi film ourselves.
Well, that's a great idea.
Let's get to the edge of tomorrow, today.
How many times have we been here? How many times?
Come find me when you wake up!
It's a new day, people.
Who said you could talk to me?
You did. Tomorrow.
Your leg's broken.
No, I can still feel my toes.
Then we better start over.
Come on. It's a new day, people. For me, it's been an eternity.
All right, we're talking about Edge of Tomorrow.
Today.
Right now. Should we just loop this conversation? Just a whole podcast on repeat? I feel like that would be very meta.
Yeah, I think Matt Singer, his like most famous review on Letterboxd, or most popular review is this, and it's it like starts the same every sentence.
I like that. It's a nice touch.
So this is This is our first foray into science fiction with you.
It is.
On the show. You're not too deep in sci-fi yourself.
Not particularly, no.
What do you think about this one?
I like this movie quite a bit. Yeah, I like Edge of Tomorrow. I thought it was super fun. Maybe just a little long for my liking, but otherwise I was totally engaged the whole time.
This one's too long. Peterloo, not...
Just right.
Yeah. Elephant sitting still?
Perfect.
Yeah, you're a monster.
Perfect.
You're a fucking monster.
Yeah. I think some of my favorite stuff is in the first half. Mostly on the beach.
Where it's a comedy.
Where some of my... it's not the comedy about that. It's just maybe some of the action, the look of some of that stuff, where I was just, like, most sort of thrilled by the action. It's just super slick. Yeah, I just think it's super well put together, you know, between the editing, camera placement, camera movement. It just moves. It just has a pace to it that just kept me in it the whole time. What about you?
Yeah, this is one of my favorites. I have it around like an 83, 82, which is a 4 on Letterboxd. But it's... Although that is its score, I could just rewatch this science fiction film more than almost any other, besides like maybe Pacific Rim. Like there's just something about it that makes it so charming and yet so human, or like its concerns are just so human that I can and I believe these characters, and it doesn't feel like the relationship doesn't feel inauthentic between Emily Blunt and Tom Cruise to a point where I can just really keep watching this thing.
I think we differ there. I think we'll probably agree on how fun most of the action is. I did have a harder time.
Should I shoot
with
you in
them.
the head now so that you can
we start over?
Try again?
Yeah. I certainly felt like in casting, their star appeal probably took precedence over their chemistry with each other. I don't know. I was never that swept up in them as a couple, or as or swept up in like their romantic potential, right? But I think it is playing up the romantic potential, right?
I mean maybe, but right, that's the complexity of this thing. Is it's not like Tom Cruise wants to fall in love with her. It's like he's put in a situation where he has to repeat this day, and the person he has to learn from, and the only person that can help him, is Emily Blunt. And Emily Blunt also had to do the same thing at the previous battle, which starts with a V. Is that right? Shoot.
Yeah. I
can't remember what it's called now. And she had to do the same thing, and the person that she had to keep living the same day over and over with, she fell in love with, and he died. And the same thing is happening to Tom Cruise. And, like, so separate yourself from the movie. Is that, like, a thing? Like, if you had to live 80 days with this person who was teaching you something and was beautiful and you shared these moments with, would you slowly start to fall for them or feel something deeper? I think so.
I don't think the movie articulates very well what you just said. I think you can certainly describe that in words, and I understand it, but I don't think the movie does. In my experience, it does
at the end.
I disagree. I don't think it does a very good job of really cultivating what it is they like about each other.
So that house scene basically is the whole, like, it gives the full breakdown, and you realize how many times they've been to this house already. And that Tom Cruise keeps repeatedly doing it because she keeps dying and he doesn't want to leave her.
Right.
Like, that doesn't do anything for you? Or, like, the fact that he knows these names that she shouldn't have told him?
No, not really. I mean, I mean, I feel like you're describing the machinations of the script and not so much, like,
well, that's the thing.
The filmic chemistry between them as actors.
We aren't seeing the scenes where that stuff is happening.
Right.
And that's what makes it almost more sobering, or like more heartbreaking, or more of a war movie to me, is that we're not getting to see these moments of beauty happen between these two people that have clearly happened. But like when he says certain names and knows like how she takes her coffee or whatever, and like already has the keys and stuff, it shows me someone acting rather than talking, and sometimes that's how you really tell when someone cares, is by their actions, not by their words. And I thought that by actions, he absolutely clearly came to care for her, and she trusted that he cared and believed him, but wasn't on the same wavelength as him with those emotions. But she could still understand where he was coming from because of her own experience. And so I thought that's why it was super rich, because it's these two people that are separated by the lives they live that are still in a situation where they have to keep going.
Yeah. I mean, I wish for me there had just been a more substantive spark in the moments that we do see. I mean, that's all what we have to go off is I don't think the implication was that romantic. I think the movie very much banks on her sex appeal. And she looks fat. She does in Spares. But is that the phrase?
Spades.
Yeah, I was like, yeah, she has it to spare. I was mixing up those phrases. But yeah, I don't know.
Let me just ask you a question, and this might help me understand. At the end, before he goes back and has to get her help to blow up the Omega, is that right?
Yeah.
He tries to do it all himself.
Yeah.
Okay, but before he tries to do it all himself, he walks in, and he walks up to her because he's used to the pattern, and then he decides to not bring her in.
Right.
And the way that she looks at him, like, does that do anything for you?
0.
Okay, so that might just be like you're not there with this movie. And I honestly don't think I was in the first time I watched it either. This is maybe my 4th or 5th time watching it.
Whoa, okay.
So, and I think that it honestly does reward more viewings. At least that's my experience. It's like, because you already know what's going to happen, so you start paying attention to like the little things. And that'll happen in any movie where you start paying attention to the little things, and it either falls apart or gets better. And I think it got better for me as I was noting the facial tics, where you almost feel like she knows that something just like her fate just changed. You can see almost on her face when he turns and walks away. Like she doesn't quite know what happened, but she knows that something just happened. And I very much fall for that trope, if you will, whether it's literature, where someone goes back in time and the fate that could have happened with these two people doesn't happen, or if it's a film.
I think I would attribute that response more to editing than her performance, where if we see her rising up out of her push-up position, we cut to Tom Cruise and he walks away, which we're not used to seeing him do, and then we cut back to Emily Blunt. We're adding up meaning in that shot in a way that we haven't previously, because of what transpired in shot 2 where we see him walk away. I don't know that I see...
That's true. The editor is very responsible for this film, just in general, because of the fact that it's Groundhog Day in itself.
Yeah.
But, I mean, she did have to give that scene... Like, she did have to perform that scene in the first place. So I do think you have to give some credit to the performers, if it holds up in any way.
Maybe I was not looking close enough. I will, be open to that.
There's some eye choices she makes, in that scene particularly, that she doesn't make, if I recall, in the previous scenes, when they meet, and it very much left me interpreting that she knew that something had just happened that she couldn't comprehend, and that maybe she had a feeling about what it was.
Yeah.
And I think we all have those encounters with people at some point in our life where, we know that something just happened by not meeting them or something. Yeah. Like when we just see someone.
Yeah. I partly just wish I had gotten, a broader range of emotion from her. We definitely get that with Tom Cruise, and obviously so because he is the one reliving the day. We're going to see him respond to things in different ways.
And he's also not a warrior that's concerned... Oh, the fight for Verdun. I remembered it.
Verdun, yes. Good memory.
But that's the thing. She's the full metal bitch. She won the fight for Verdun, or the battle for Verdun, and her only concern is winning this war. She already lost the person that she fell in love with on her live, die, repeat sequence. And now she's hardened. And we come to understand that story throughout this film. And this is a war film. And, like, I know that maybe in, Enemy at the Gates, where Rachel Weisz and, what's his name, end up falling in love by the end of it. Is that correct?
You said Inherent Vice?
No, Enemy at the Gates.
Oh, wait, why did I hear...
Rachel Weisz.
Oh, Rachel Weisz.
Rachel Weisz is the love interest in
Yeah,
Enemy
yeah.
at the Gates. It's a Russian war film about a sniper. I think it might be Ewan McGregor plays the other character.
Jude Law?
Jude Law.
Great movie.
I mix those two up all the time. And so, like, there is space for a war movie to have love.
Yeah.
But I think that this is just, like, the scope of this is... While it has a limited budget, $178, it did make back double its budget. I do think that the necessity of this war keeps these characters from being able to open their hearts. And I think we see that hard behavior from the squad itself and how long it takes Tom Cruise to convince them to go on the suicide mission.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, I wish I had the same response. And don't get me wrong, I'm positive on this movie, by and large. I just would not sell this to anybody as a romance, or for its romantic appeal.
I don't think it's a romance either, but I do think that there is a subgenre of this film that is a romance, because there are those days missing.
Yeah.
And there is a certain subtext between these two characters, and there are... I think that Tom Cruise absolutely fell in love with Emily Blunt by the end of this movie.
It's probably partly the age difference.
But it's one-sided.
Like, the I don't think, like, the casting makes a lot of sense. Like, I think there's, like, 20 years between them, 25?
Yeah, that's exactly real life for Tom Cruise ever since Nicole Kidman. That is just how he goes.
Well, that doesn't make it better for me. That would never make me say, oh, okay, I'm on board because Tom Cruise plays down. That isn't going to help. Yeah, I wish I could. I wish I could see the complexity. I mean, I see that the same hardened fighter in Emily Blunt doing the same thing over and over, which is the point. But it also doesn't make for anything more than a one-dimensional character for me. I wish I could feel that depth.
So, okay, this is pure speculation from what I gather, but the rumor mill says that the second film is focused on Emily Blunt.
Oh, I didn't know there was a sequel. I'm excited.
It's being written now, based on my understanding. I think Doug Liman and Christopher McQuarrie might have worked out the logistics together. I don't know how it is now. It's like its fourth screenplay, because Emily was busy doing Jumanji. Is that right? Did she do Jumanji? No, she did Jungle Cruise with Dwayne when they wanted to shoot the second one. So now they're rehashing the screenplay. But Tom Cruise is supposed to be a side character, or not a side character, but he's supposed to be more Emily Blunt role. And Emily Blunt's going to be doing the live, die, repeating.
Interesting. Is this like the Verdun thing? Or
I think it will be.
Going back.
Because based on what I understand, it's that loop sequence has ended. So now they're going to go further back in time to try to... The alien races, rewinding time further to try to win that battle a different way, to try to win in the future a different way.
Yeah.
So
I like that.
It's exciting.
Yeah, it's definitely not that I like dislike Emily Blunt, and I would happily
beat you up. She's one of my favorite actresses.
Oh, I know. I will happily show up for round 2, primarily for the action itself.
Maybe we need to go salmon fishing in the Yemen just so we can agree on something.
That sounds painful, but
it's a nice movie. It's a nice movie. Screw you.
But yeah, I would show up for round 2.
So let's just diverge into Doug Liman.
Mm-hmm.
What do you think of his direction here?
I think it's pretty sharp, no doubt. I mean, the movie just moves. Like it just feels seamless. The action sequences themselves just feel completely organic and are super engaging. I think he just knows how to construct things to keep the excitement level like really steadily high. I am 100% positive on the direction. You?
Agreed. There's some, I think, crazy action cinematography. And I don't know like who gets credit. Probably everyone gets credit. Editor, director, cinematographer.
They're all in sync.
Staging, they're right because there's some scenes that start 90 degrees away from where they end up, and it's like almost all CG that they have to shoot besides live actors wearing like what you assume is CG suits. Yeah. And just the way that some of those scenes in like we're talking one take shots where it's like what the fuck, like 30 seconds of action CG laden cinematography all coming together. Yep. It blows my mind now. Like I can't believe some of this stuff exists.
Oh yeah. Like one of my biggest like frustrations with action cinema can be like super frenetic editing and fast editing, and I think like the average shot length here just feels long in like a fantastic way. Like you're just allowed to watch the camera move and take all this in, and your eyes just believe what you're seeing.
Absolutely.
Kind of 100% at the time. I think I prefer like the more brightly lit sequences on the beach. Like that was just my favorite stuff.
I think that's the best beach invasion scene that's ever been shot in any film, just action wise.
Yeah. I mean the ending at the Louvre, right? Still good. I still like it, but I don't know. I think the best stuff is in half one. Where I was most psyched.
Yeah, where they spend probably 100 million of the 172.
Exactly. Yeah, it's almost like they looked at the bill halfway through. They're like, "Oh shit, turn down the light."
Yeah, it is easier to do CG with different lighting. All right. Well, that's Edge of Tomorrow. Maybe tomorrow we'll watch it again and talk about it then. But that's it for now.
Onward.
You explore all the wonders of a vanished civilization. You travel deep down into the heart of the Forbidden Planet to discover the incredible marvels of this lost genius race. These magnificent scenes in striking Eastman color stagger the imagination.
To the taboo. To the forbidden, sorry. Not the taboo yet. We'll get witchy later. This is the Forbidden Planet.
Is it the Forbidden Planet or Forbidden Planet? One of the two?
I'm calling it the Forbidden Planet, but it is Forbidden Planet.
Understood. A personal favorite. I understand.
This is one of my favorite films of the 1950s.
Where does it rank among film of all time? Is it up there? Or the 50s?
It's in the top 100.
Okay.
The 50s I'm not studied on.
Got it.
That's more than anything what's true.
Yeah. But it is solidly number one.
I don't know if it's number one.
Okay.
I can look. Do you want me to look?
Yeah, check the list. Why not?
Why don't you break down Forbidden Planet while I pull up the 1950s?
Subject. I think the director is Fred Wilcox, if I remember correctly. Director is Fred M. Wilcox. I stand corrected. The writers here are Cyril Hume and Irving Block.
Based on the book of? Is that right? Based
correct.
on story by.
Correct. Yes, they are credited as writers on IMDb.
It is my number one of the 1950s. Nice go.
There you go.
After just watching it, I don't know that I put it above Vertigo, but it's definitely a coin toss for me between the two. With House on the Haunted Hill at third.
They're different enough, right? They can tie. Yeah.
I love Vertigo.
There you go.
That's tough.
Yeah. Subject matter in a distant future. Is that safe to say? I don't remember what the year is.
2200s, I think.
Yeah.
2200s. Space crew descends on the planet Altair 4. And we meet Dr. Morbius. And because the crew persists and stays too long, they end up meeting his daughter, Alta, or Altaira, which I think is heavily laden with symbology myself, especially considering the nature of the film being Freudian and what the word Alta means, which is high. Altira means high or a flying bird. Very Steven Soderbergh of them.
Yes.
And then Altair, I believe, is like reverent and the highest mountain. And those are Altair and Altaira are Arabic. But Alta is Latin-based in Spanish, and a word that is commonly used to refer to Mary.
Ah, got it. Interesting. I'll just get it out of the way. I was cooler on it than you.
Yeah, you're a loser.
For sure. But still positive on it. I actually think I've gone up on it, like, in the days after it. I was psyched about the story, the premise, the material. I didn't feel that the direction served the material particularly well for me. I know that's painful. I just got to get that out of the way.
I think I get it, but like, let me just suss it out. So, like,
yeah.
Did you want it to have a higher budget and for everything to not be a painting? Like, how did you see it being shot? Due to the fact that all the backgrounds are paintings.
For example, at the 50-minute mark, when Dr. Morbius finds the two men snooping around his office, he says, okay, it's time I come clean and tell you what's going on. That just felt like 10 minutes of an exposition dump. Like, I don't think those conversations are shot in any way that makes the dialogue feel that compelling. Like, I kind of feel to myself like I would be getting just as much by reading this on paper. I think the production design is great. Like, the sets are cool. And do you think that
those scenes would have been better if they were shot better?
Yeah, of course. I mean that's what, like, shot variation for me can do, right? It's just, like, different angles, like, mix it up with close-ups and two shots.
Do you think there's any validity to the idea that this is a complete 100% prop set on a studio lot, and that they might be logistically impaired by the camera size at that point, the crew size at that point, the lighting at that point, and the way that all this stuff was faked together to create the facade, that maybe they were getting the shots that they knew that they could actually get within the budget?
Entirely possible. I would grant it all those things, but, like, I can only, like, I only handicap, like, a movie so much. Like, it's not like you I don't know, that's not criticism to me. It's like finding those reasons to excuse why you're not feeling something every step of the way. It's like, I think very low budget productions still find interesting ways to make inner dynamics between characters interesting. I wish it had just come off the page a little in a bit more lively of a fashion. And I think that's why, like, I've liked it more in the days afterward. Is like, I think the material is good, but the experience of watching it was not that compelling. Like, I think I like Barbarella more during the actual viewing. But this is obviously, like, way more thematically rich. Yeah, I mean, even if they were bound to a set, I mean, I don't know that they can't just shoot it better just by varying the shots a little bit. I don't know, that's an impossibility. But yeah, I mean, I do think there is a lot here for sure. Which would you like to shed light on that?
I think that due to the painterly backgrounds,
mm-hmm.
the way that they shoot everything very broad allows the humans to feel like they're inhabiting a space.
Mm-hmm.
So I feel like they're people on an area. And I think that this is more about the planet itself and its story than it is about humanity until the end. And so I think that the way that it's shot, while is totally ripe with criticism, it's certainly not shot by Kubrick. You know, you're not getting these crazy cool shots, but I do think that looking at the budget and just to me thinking about the logistics of a project like this, and even the fact that it was made, and the sets that they made for it being made, and probably how hollow they were, and what they got out of this budget, I thought was super rich. I mean, God, if you watch that scene with the tiger and you really watch it and you pause it and you look, you can see the film tear where they were cutting the tiger out, walking through a separate frame, and then they colored the background of where the tiger was to be where they wanted the tiger to be. And you can literally see the film cut like this is when film was cut, and the CG for the id monster and like the laser guns. I don't know. Show me another 1950s movie that does some of this stuff at such a bodacious level.
Yeah.
And I just think it's very special. And I think that it's an interrogation of some German philosophy, with like the feminine ideal, which Alta is the very beginning. Before we find out her name is Altaira, she's just called High, which she's referred to as Mary in Spanish. I think that the way that she presents herself, she doesn't understand she's sexual, much like Barbarella. She doesn't understand that her outfits are sexual in any way. And she is asked to change herself so that the men can bear her, or deal with her, or, you know, like it's, I think, very rich in idea about like what man requires out of the world around it. Like, it doesn't allow things to be naturally the way that they are. And we see that from the space crew towards Alta, which is High. And then we see that from Dr. Morbius against the spacemen, taking his daughter away from him, which is his highest pursuit.
Yeah. Yeah, I think I found less to chew on in terms of like the sexuality of it. I think I came at that from more of like an ironic angle, something about like no matter how advanced we might be, we're never going to be above these basic instincts for sex and alcohol. To me, there was just some ironic amusement in that.
I would agree. Yeah. I was definitely like just seeing more from my own background. Like, her first costume is very much like an Athenian costume. I think she's even wearing those like Athenian sandals. She just very much looks like a striking Greek goddess at that point. Yeah,
yeah. The idea I kind of started drifting to in the days after watching it was thinking of it kind of as like Cold War film, and a film about like the anxiety over technology, like
McCarthyism even.
Yeah. These guys potentially becoming equipped with technology beyond which they should ever really have. Right. That feels very relevant to the era in which it was released. I think that's sort of just an interesting way to look at it. I mean, I don't think I've said how much I do like the look of it, like in terms of the production design. I do think that's like kind of the best thing about it. So you do like
the art of it?
The production design for sure. The sets, particularly Robbie's great. Like, yeah, I mean, that's kind of hard not to like. Most of the stuff below ground I thought looked great.
The lock. I mean, the lock to open up the the door, right?
Yeah.
And then all the fancy stuff in there, but then like the what is it? The subdermal vent shaft. Just how
do they go in that?
Is. Yeah, they take that elevator ship thing into the Earth.
Yeah.
It's like 20 miles by 20 miles by 20 miles or something. Like, it's just...
Yeah, but that was like a good example where he says like, gentlemen, like, you know, I hope you're ready to, I don't know, you know, he says something like, you know, to the effect of have your minds blown, right? Like, I wanted like something to heighten that a little bit if it was, you know, a close-up or even music, rather than being told. It was kind of a show don't tell thing that was kind of happening there. I wanted to be more kind of enraptured by it, but I don't know. You bring up Kubrick, like, I don't think this is that different from 2001, like in its ideas in a lot of way. If you kind of subscribe to the idea that 2001 is about these great leaps in like the evolution of mankind and becoming equipped with these new levels of technology at various stages in our evolution, this feels highly relevant to that same kind of topic of you know, the potential for us to become equipped to things that we maybe should never even deal with. So yeah, I don't know. I think there's a connection there that's worthwhile.
Yeah, I think that's also doing some grappling with the consequences of World War II, right? Specifically that scene where when they're in the Krell laboratory, for lack of a better word.
Yeah.
Right, and he goes, that's 10 to the 10. That's 10 to the 10 to the 10. That's 10 to the 10 to the 10. And just like the scale of that, and that's kind of what we did with the atom bombs.
Yeah.
And we've gotten much bigger and more explosive with them now, right? It was, the ones we dropped were like the weakest ones that I think have been made, essentially, on Hiroshima. So, I mean, just the zeitgeist of what was being dealt with at that point in time, I think is very rich in this film. And I think that there is a certain level of earnestness and sincerity to it that makes it age well. The fact that we really feel like, although maybe it's wrong, like, although maybe I interpreted it as wrong that she fell in love with any of the spacemen, there is something sweet and true about the fact that these are like the first spacemen she saw, right? And they like there's a toddler level of honesty to her where she's like, I like the end ones, but she doesn't like the middle one. The first time she sees these men, she's excited to see Earthmen. It's her first time seeing them. There's just something very funny about it. And then just like a small note, on their hat they have that planetary symbol. It's I think like a comet going through a circle. Yeah, and it very much looks like the masculine symbol, like for male, you know, where it's like the circle with the arrow pointing up. Yeah, and it also looks like the foot of the id. It looks abstractly like both.
That. I like that.
And I thought like just the level of art design in this thing is just next level to me. Like there's just so much rich subtext to it.
Yeah, this is super specific, not broad at all. But I don't think I've ever seen a sci-fi film where humans are flying the flying saucer like ship and not the aliens. That was a nice little reversal, right? And especially something I think I read this is like the first sci-fi film to ever be set on like another planet, just for a film this or in the early days of sci-fi to do something that now seems like the opposite of what we know. I don't know, just an interesting little touch. But yeah, I mean, I think maybe I'm coming around on it to some degree.
Well, good. I'm glad I can bully you.
Yeah.
Yeah, this is my favorite film of the 1950s. Maybe. Vertigo is very much one of my favorite films of all time, and this is as well. It's just so rich with science fiction philosophy, right? Like they just spend a tiny amount of time, but they bring in Asimovian rules with Robbie, right? Where
can you explain that to me?
So he gives him the order to kill.
Oh yeah.
He gives Robbie the order to kill, and Robbie can't complete that order because of the instruction that's built into him. And they make it very much of that world, but there's the 3 rules of Asimov, which Asimov introduces in the Foundation series for the robots, where they can't harm others or other sentient life forms, but they have to obey commands of humans. And so there are some short stories of his, and I think maybe a novella where there's just this whole breakdown of this robot. I think he's stuck on a moon or on Mars, where he just doesn't know what to do, because if he leaves, he'll kill someone who fell down a well, and if he doesn't leave, then he'll die. But if he leaves, he could save him, and if he leaves, he could kill him. And so the robot like stays there for like thousands of years or something. It's this very rich idea of like, if you program a robot with these syntaxes to do these things, what are the consequences? Yeah. Right. And we see that at the end when he's commanded to kill or to stop the id monster, to kill the id monster, and he knows that he can't because it is Morbius himself.
Yeah. I mean, I think you can very much talk about Robbie in contrast or comparison to Hal in 2001. You could probably do a whole series just kind of on AI, right? And robots throughout cinema. I've never actually seen AI. That was Spielberg, right?
Haley Joel Osment.
Are there other ones you would put in that program?
In the program of robots? Well, I mean, C-3PO probably. Just specifically, right, the philological background there, because he is a robot built for speech, and Dr. Morbius is a speech doctor who's studying this civilization, and he creates Robbie from his understanding of languages. I would just compare them. But I mean, like, the best robots of all time, geez, Michael Fassbender comes to mind.
I was trying to remember. Yeah, I was saying he was a robot. Yeah.
Yeah.
The guy in the original Alien turns out to be a robot. Yeah. You could program that.
Yeah, sure. Let's do a robot program. Just one last divergence.
Yeah.
I do think that they could have been very dialed into sci-fi, whoever wrote the screenplay. And they could have been in contact with some of the folks working on the cutting edge, because we have a character named Boson. And 8 years later, the Higgs boson particle is confirmed.
Oh, interesting.
So I'm reading into that, absolutely, but I do think that there could be something to that.
Love it.
Morbius is somewhere between Morpheus and the Mobius strip. The Mobius strip is how we explore the ideas of space-time relativity with entangled time and inverting on itself. It's a clockwise loop of a single strip, and that's how we try to envision time on a single plane through a realm of other dimensions. And then Morpheus is the idea of dreams, and I think that very much plays into the id monster.
Love it.
And then, of course, Leslie Nielsen's character, Captain Adams, Atom, ATOM, ADAM. There's just implicit meaning all over this thing if you look for it, I think. And I think that it's not all 100% on accident. I think some of it's definitely explicit.
And now for my most complicated question of all, favorite scene.
I think it's really touching when we see Alta bring her friends. I think it very much makes us understand who this person is that doesn't behave in these earthly ways, that she thinks that these things are friends, and that she loses them when she becomes a human. I think that very much speaks to the idea of that feminine divine, of that certain godly quality that she seemed to have and then lost.
Love it.
How about you?
The id monster is pretty hard to beat. That seems like an obvious choice. So just to name a second one, the scenes where we are the camera sort of embodying the
id monster.
That is amazing. Invisible. That's great stuff. Going into the ship. Love it.
Where it shows the stairs.
Yeah.
Compress. But, okay, so which id monster scene? Breaking into the Krell door or attacking the gate?
I was thinking the gate.
Enemy at the gate.
Great stuff.
They lied to us. You knew it.
The sensation, moving backwards. Even though we're moving forwards, getting further from what's getting nearer.
Now we're talking about Claire Denis' High Life with Robert Pattinson, Juliette Binoche, Mia Goth, Andre Benjamin, aka Andre 3000. Where do you stand on this one?
You know, I liked this movie about a bunch of lowlifes stuck in space on a prison ship. I did like it. I don't know that I know what I think about it. I'm happy to talk about it here with you, but it's by no means the end of my experience with this film. I plan on watching it again probably this year.
Me too.
And I have a feeling I'm going to need to watch it a few more times in my life to really get a better picture on how I interact with this film. Because I do think that Claire made something that is very much driven by the body, that is very much something that will change with age and will have different meanings as I navigate my own life and I go from being a single dude who drinks beer with his friend on a Saturday and talks about movies to maybe having a kid of my own.
There you go.
So I am excited to spend the rest of my life slowly watching this film.
Well said. I think I'm in the exact same boat. I didn't have this sort of epiphany that, sometimes you hope to have within a movie. I don't know that everything totally clicked into place for me, that just got me to that next level with it. But I also just can't stop thinking about it. There are things about it in pieces that I wholeheartedly loved. I think the craft is kind of just impeccable. I just can't kind of help but think that on future viewings, even just a second viewing, it'll maybe kind of skyrocket. I think just like you said, I might just need more time with it. I think there's a lot there, and everything I did see I responded to, but to just kind of get into that next like level with it, I need to wrestle with it more. And I think I like that. I think that's a good thing. Sometimes you get all you think you're going to get out of a movie in one go, and you love it, but that's also not a great sign that you think you've squeezed all the juice out, and now it's empty, right? I think I like kind of barely tapped this thing somehow.
Yes.
So I can try to talk about it, but it's kind of hard, to be honest.
It is tough. Why don't we just start with something totally random?
Okay.
What do you make of the Native American on the fire, or in front of the fire, on that screen? What do you make of that?
Oh, you mean the black and white like movie that is playing for the baby?
I mean, if it's black and white, it's black and white, but it's the movie playing for the baby, and it plays at the end too, right?
I have no idea. God, I really wish I had a take on that, but like, I don't know. I really don't. Do you have thoughts?
Right, fire, smoke, Native Americans, right? They're not all dead, but their culture is largely dead. Their history is past, and what little remains, is slowly coming to us in the forms of television and things like that. But their way of life is gone. It's up in smoke. And I do think that there is some sort of a spirituality communication of that truth that Claire is committing to us. This is her second English language film. I do think that probably meant something to her, this idea of making a film for America, perhaps, and that maybe she did choose to lay in some American symbolism in a way that she hasn't for America before. And I think that might be one of the turnkeys for what she did.
Yeah, I don't know what movie it is, but it's not the first thing that comes to mind if I were to put a movie on for a 6-month-old, right? So it clearly seems intentional, but
it's just always on.
Yeah. We come back to it on multiple occasions, I think. I don't know. I mean, all of the scenes between Robert Pattinson and that baby really did hit me in like a pretty big way. That this is, I mean, I don't know, something about this just how brutal this movie is at times, on more than a few times. Those moments of real gentleness seem to like just really balance it somehow. It's just also not that often you see a kid that young on screen for that long.
Perform that well.
He kills it. She, it's a she.
Well, who knows? Because it is a baby. I guess we do see that it's a she at one point when he's watching
you're right.
her. So I know that sometimes with babies they will just use whichever baby acts the best. Because it won't matter. With it. Yeah, you can say whatever it is. We don't know.
Yeah, but I mean, that's some of the first stuff we see, and I was pretty taken with that right away. And I do kind of respond to how this movie can shift pretty quickly between some scenes that are quite savage and then suddenly quite gentle. And yeah, I mean, something about, the idea that these are death row inmates. These are people who have been condemned to death, and that comes with a certain value judgment that we've put on them as human beings. And this also being about the potential for them to give life. I still don't know really how to articulate that, but I don't know. It's just somehow a thing I respond to, right? I don't know what to say about it in more detail. That's why I guess I just kind of described the plot, but it's also the theme. That's
why I think sci-fi philosophy is so rich, and why I wanted to do this to begin with, because we don't really watch sci-fi movies. As a show, or we haven't before. We've watched a few. Barbarella was really just me trying to slowly ease you in for what to expect, which I think might have helped prep you for Forbidden Planet in some ways.
Yeah, for sure.
More than anything. But there is a history of philosophy, and I think a history of even psychology that is tied to the exploration of space as we come to understand it. And we have different layers of understanding. We observe different phenomena in the universe, and then we begin to build our schools of thoughts around it. And these science fiction films come from very different schools of thought about ideas. You know, we have what is called the Groundhog Day idea, largely, with Edge of Tomorrow, where it's, you know, live, die, repeat. It's this idea that you have to keep repeating the same day until you come up with some sort of a solution. That is a very rich idea. We can't really envision how it would exist in practical senses, but it is an idea that we as a species encountered and are fascinated with, based on the fact that we watched Happy Death Day to You. We watched Happy Death Day, we watched Groundhog Day, we watched this. You know, like there's an idea of this. There is the idea of the subconscious that we saw in Forbidden Planet. And then in High Life, there's this idea of, like, we live here. We live on something that is a planet. We know planets die. We know we die. Therefore, we know that it has to die. We also know that we want to live. And we're wrestling with that truth while we're wrestling with the idea of a singularity. And I think that even Forbidden Planet wrestles with a different idea of a singularity. It wrestles with the idea of a technological singularity. And so I think that this is just one of those films that is so rich and sincere from Claire, with ideas that it's almost like we could, what do you want to talk about? We could talk about The Witch for 2 hours.
Yeah.
Let's get witchy with it, you know, or we could talk about Mia Goth wrestling with this idea of being forced, being imprisoned into bearing life against her will. And is that even worse than the rape that was going to happen to her? Like,
that's a tough scene.
It's just so rich with these ideas. What is worse, rape or artificial rape and having to bear its child? And then the way that she kills herself.
Yeah.
And the way that her killing herself on that ship causes that other girl to kill herself.
Yeah.
And how about suicide? How about radiation? Like, it's just so rich with these ideas that we could just talk about this stuff forever. But, like, where do you want to bear in?
That is hard to say. There's, I don't know. It's just kind of have to talk and just kind of see where it takes you, I guess. Yeah, I mean, the tone is so strange because it does feel like very sort of singular, but, like, there are different tones here. Like, just as she sometimes does come across as very witchy, just like she describes herself, and that seems to lean into sort of like,
say you're a babe and you know it.
Yeah, if you're foxy and you know it.
Foxy.
Great line. That seems to kind of lean into, like, this sci-fi horror kind of mode almost, and then it can very easily sort of swivel into something erotic, and then all of a sudden those things are kind of colliding in one. I mean, that's just, like, incredible direction, right? That's just artistry behind the camera, like how all those feelings kind of give way to each other.
Okay, so how about the complex? I don't know if this was your experience. I might have just messed up. But I had the most stunning reaction to Robert Pattinson in his cot with a girl sleeping against him with her leg over him. Based on the previous parts of this film, I understood what that meant to me. That this was a girl that wanted to have sex with him. Or had sex with him. And then he kicks her out of bed, like literally kicks her out of bed. And she goes back to her cot. And he discovers that she had a period, and then it slowly like is realized because she's, like, not wearing a bra. Like, you can very much see her body. It's a very somatic film. We can see everyone's bodies at some point in this film. It's very body laden, and it comes to pass that, like, this is not someone who's amorous for him. This is his daughter.
Yeah.
And that shift for me was just so hard.
Oh yeah.
Like, it
didn't click for me right away.
Okay, so it's not something that, like, I should have known, right? Because there's this girl that's waking up with her leg over Robert Pattinson in his bed. There's a certain assumption that we're going to make based on the previous part of the film that we spent time in, that this is sexually based, or at least companionship based in some way, with maybe lust, but lust that can't take over. And then the fact that it's his daughter, and that I as a viewer was putting that on the, like, that I was interpreting that, and that she didn't know any better, but maybe he did.
Yeah.
But, like, it's such a dense scene to me.
Yeah, I wish I could remember, like, exactly when it dawned on me that was his daughter, and I think that's exactly...
I figured it out, like, the scene after.
Just them talking, just, I don't know, something
Yeah.
more simple.
Yeah.
It did just suddenly click, and then I was trying to, like, rewind in my head. I'm like...
What the fuck?
Yeah. And yeah, I don't know. I do like that sort of oblique approach that is letting me make these associations myself, right? Like this is really not holding your hand in any way through the narrative. I find that very freeing. It makes it It makes the movie have some space in which you can move around in. No pun intended.
Sorry, I think maybe why I think it's so rich is it comes back to this like deeper. Maybe it's a deeper idea. I don't know. It's a base idea that I have, which is like, what are we in space? What are we as a spacefaring creature? Especially if the planet is dead. What are we? The fact that this man is waking up in bed with his daughter and her legs like, right? It's like when we look back at tribes where like women were owned and daughters of the father of the tribe would marry cousins of the tribe. Like it's back to that idea of like, what are we when we're there, especially when we're in that group over that amount of time? Like, what if we were there for 1,000 years? Who do you sleep with? Who do you breed with? Do you? Who are we? What are we? And I think that in space, that just that scene really reminded me of that deep idea of like, who are we?
Yeah. It unsettled me for sure, right? In a very
it's an
big
unsettling
way.
philosophical question. Who are we if we're not here?
Yeah.
If we don't have 7 billion people to choose from, and we're stuck in a coffin going towards a black hole, at what is it, 0.9 or 97.6 the speed of light? Who are we? Just the meeting of the ideas, like it keeps describing, this thing as like a trash can, like we were garbage that we were tossed out in, and yet like once you're inside the ship, it just feels so erotic, right? Like something about how beautiful the film is, just like in terms of like your immediate response to it, right? Like it's these purples and blues, and it's kind of this sterile environment. And all that kind of meets with the idea suits are very
of them.
Organic.
Look
the
great.
Fabrics are
Great
very
suits,
organic.
right?
No, it looks naturalistic, right?
Yeah.
Very somatic. Very, very. It doesn't even look like cloth. It looks like an organic cloth. It looks like a cloth made of organic composite material.
Yeah. It all just is very just pleasing on the eye to some extent, and then strikes you as unsettling so fast sometimes.
What do you think of the wrench?
The wrench? Him dropping the wrench?
Yes.
I don't know that I made too much of it. What are you thinking?
Oh, that broke sci-fi for me.
Oh, because it fell, you mean?
Yeah. Well, right, that's the thing. Did it fall? Are they close enough to the black hole that it went towards the black hole gravitational pull? Or are they moving at the speed of light, and as soon as it separated from the motion of the speed of light, did it slow down to normal speed, and that appeared to be it falling?
Yeah.
I don't know what it did.
Yeah,
It
in
just
the
broke
moment...
sci-fi. It broke it.
In the moment, I thought to myself, like, okay, maybe this movie is just, like, not concerned with rules. Like, that's kind of beyond the point of it.
Her interview said otherwise.
Right, I think they say at some point it's just about the speed at which they're moving, right? I don't remember if that was relative to the black hole or not, but I thought that there was...
Well, that's the thing.
They
They're
tried
close
to
enough to the black
rationalize it.
hole to send expeditions there in small ships. We see Mia Goth explode her head doing so.
Oh, yeah.
Very Athenian, right? So, if they're close enough to a black hole for that, then there is a gravitational pull from the black hole. But the thing is it falling towards the black hole, or is it falling towards this... away from the super light speed, or is it doing both? Like, it's probably doing both. It was such a like a door in the face, like a door where a window should, like, it just broke all conventions of sci-fi, right? You watch Sandra Bullock in Gravity, she can go grab the thing. You watch Love and Death in the Time of Robots, or whatever, Love, Death, and Robots. And there's a scene where she drop something and it follows science fiction expectations. Like I think, at least I have these sci-fi expectations. When I see something fall in space, it just like, fuck you.
You're like, wait a minute.
We're on a ride.
So you liked it.
I did. I think I do. I was startled.
Certainly alerted you
It
to
startled
something.
me. Yeah, it was like a creepy monster in a horror film.
Yeah,
like,
yeah.
Fuck.
yeah. He similar to how he's like dropping the bodies out of the ship, right?
Yeah.
And they just plummet.
And I was like, why are you letting... My thought was, why are you letting, like, organic compost go? Like, why aren't you letting these bodies decay and using them for the garden? Was my thought. Yeah. I still don't know why they did that.
Yeah. Some of those scenes in the garden were quite interesting, and that textural change, right? Just from the garden versus the very sterile rest of the ship.
Andre Benjamin slowly decaying.
Very
decaying.
Nice. Yeah.
Gone.
I like him. I was thinking about Andre Benjamin and the Outcast album "E.T. Aliens."
I'm all about E.T.
I was like, oh man, I'm gonna try to draw a line between Outcast's Alien album and High Life, and I got nothing.
How many times did you listen?
A couple times. Okay. To E.T. Aliens specifically. And I was even looking at the lyrics. I'm like, yeah, it's not there.
It's not there.
I tried.
But she wanted him. I find it very interesting that she wanted him, and she flew out to convince him.
Yeah.
It was almost a very small role.
I had heard that beforehand, and I was like, oh, maybe he's like going to be a big player here. Not particularly.
The trailer made me think that it was a different... Not that it was a totally different movie, but that the ensemble would be more a part of the movie.
Yeah.
Where really it's just the story... to me, the ensemble is the story of... what's her name? The daughter?
Willow.
It's the story of Willow.
Very earthly name, yeah.
And that's like the only reason that they're all there, is to make Willow. And it's just to serve her, and then they just disappear, in their own ways. They kill themselves or die.
Yeah.
Or rape and get murdered.
Yeah. The rape scene in particular, I couldn't tell you many of these characters' names other than Willow and Robert Pattinson's character, but that...
Monty, right?
Monty, nice.
And then we've got Mia Goth.
Yes, she is
Benjamin
the victim
Juliette
of the rape.
Binoche.
Yeah.
Almost rape, but yeah.
Nearly. But yeah, I did think that was like...
her roommate, right? Like she was clearly a rape victim, the way that she reacted, right? Like that looks like some onset PTSD, like psychosis, where she was like, I'm gonna fucking kill you. And she did.
Yeah.
I thought it was very rich with like humanity, I guess, and like the consequences of these people being prisoners.
Very bodily reactions, like a tough scene for sure, but this is definitely in my top 3 scores of the year. And that scene in particular, where like all you're really hearing at first when that guy, I can't remember his name, is walking into Mia Goth's room, and it's just like a synth or a guitar, super kind of low, and there's not much there, but then you hear the cymbals. You just hear 2 crashing of cymbals, and then he kind of attacks her, and then you get like a big strum of the guitar, just like that crunching guitar. Like that just kind of like threw me back in my seat. Just effective stuff. Tough scene, but quite well crafted and quite provocative.
Yeah, I know a lot of people reacted very negatively to it. I thought that it was... I mean, it is rape, so I'm not for rape, but I thought that it was a very good scene establishing, like, at that point in the film, we don't really know what the relationships are between these people, and I thought that really sussed out, like, what the relationships are and what's going on in these people's heads. Like, the fact that that guy thought that was, like, a choice that he could make because they got tied down, so he was like, I'm gonna go for it.
Yeah.
Like, just the frame of mind that these people are in as prisoners in this coffin going through space towards a black hole. Like, I think that the scene really unlocked something about the comprehensive ensemble for me. That without that scene, I just wouldn't know what I know about those characters. It very much informs the film. And I felt like it was super sincere, which is not true of all rape scenes, right?
for sure.
Like
yeah.
we got this and Irreversible.
Yeah. I can't think of that many others to compare, but yeah, not an easy thing to pull off.
No,
by any means. But yeah, I don't know that I have a lot else. Just got to revisit it, and I really think it'll just only go up.
Maybe
as time
we'll
goes
do
on.
like a like 3 movies that we agree we want to revisit in like September or like whatever.
That could be good, especially because it's early in the year.
Whenever there's that 1 week of slowdown right before everything that's gonna win an award comes out, we'll maybe do 3 of these that we think deserve a revisit, and this will be the first
reconsiderations. I like it.
All right, well that's the show for this week.
Run! Go! Get to the chopper!
We have to go.
I'm coming with you.
That was brilliant.
You're the best!